Charles Darwin was an English naturalist and biologist who lived from 1809 to 1882. Now, Darwin is best known for his theory of evolution by natural selection, and it revolutionized the way scientists and the general public viewed the origins of life on Earth. Some people will say, yeah, but Darwinism doesn't really have anything to say about where we came from or about how the universe began. No, it does. The title of his book is On the Origin of Species. This is mechanistic, so it wants to break everything down into its little individual parts and follow it back to the start. And so that means, yes, definitely Darwinism is all about origins. Darwin was born in Shrewsbury, England, into a wealthy family with a long history of scientific achievement. Young Charles showed a zeal for the natural world. From an early age, he was collecting a wide variety of specimens, everything from beetles to bird eggs. So he loved science right from the start. He loved the natural world. He loved biology. In 1831, after matriculation at Cambridge University, a 20-something Charles Darwin embarked on a 5-year journey aboard a ship called the HMS Beagle. It was a relatively small ship at around 90 feet stem to stern. The Beagle was built for the purpose of conducting hydrographic surveys of the coastlines, specifically of South America and its nearby islands. But this was the Victorian era. And after all, the Beagle was a warship. The Beagle was a Cherokee-class 10-gun brig sloop of the Royal Navy at a time when the British Empire ruled the high seas. There's some gravitas for you. The Beagle was no bucket. She carried a crew of 70 men, including officers, sailors, and a number of scientists. Now, the ship didn't see much action early on, but the proud Beagle was called upon to represent the Royal Navy in celebrations of the coronation of King George IV. The ship was adapted as a survey bark, rigged and outfitted for adventure, and eventually did take part in 3 survey expeditions. It had 3 big voyages, and Darwin was on the second one. During the now famous voyage, Darwin sailed across 3 major oceans of the world. There's a look inside the Beagle. You know, for its time, that's state of the art. This was the best way to travel, most sophisticated way to travel. You know, unless you're on Titanic or something like that, but that was dangerous. You're not going down on this thing. This thing was built for everything. This is what Darwin's journey looked like. During the journey, Darwin sailed across 3 major oceans of the world in 5 years' time. Beagle sailed across the Atlantic Ocean twice, once going out down to the tip of South America there. You see the number 4. And then a second crossing back to England from Australia. You see they come down and go around the tip of South America. Go out to number 11, that's Tahiti, right? And I guess if you're dealing with a flat earth model, I don't know how Darwin got from 11 to 12. It's a mystery, right? Well, anyway, somehow or another, by magic or some other way, he ends up over here, at number 12 there. New Zealand. Then Australia, Hobart, up into the Indian Ocean. And down to it's interesting because as far as Africa, on Darwin's journey, he didn't see a lot of Africa. Most of his work was done on the coastlines of South America, because that's where the Beagle was commissioned to be. There were other ships commissioned to be in Africa, but you just think about this. Darwin had to commit himself to 5 years. This was a 5-year journey. He was gone for 5 years. So toward the end of the voyage, the Beagle also spent some time in the Indian Ocean, including a visit to the island of Mauritius. But the majority of the voyage was spent exploring the Pacific Ocean, including visits to the Galapagos Islands, Tahiti, New Zealand, and Australia. Now, the very important Galapagos Islands, if you see number 10 on your map there, that is the Galapagos Islands. We'll talk more about that in just a second. Now, so whenever the Beagle was docked, there's the Galapagos Islands. Whenever the Beagle was docked or anchored in one of the many diverse locations, Darwin then had the opportunity to go ashore, that's where he did most of his research. He researched geology, natural history, and ethnology, and he made observations. He could make some observations from the deck of the ship, but when they were in dock or anchored, that's when he was able to get specimens. Most of his time, though, was spent on the ship cataloging specimens and making detailed observations of the flora and the fauna that he gathered, or encountered. The voyage of the HMS Beagle is widely regarded as one of the most important scientific expeditions in history. Darwin became famous from this journey when he published his diary journal, and it's known as the Voyage of the Beagle. And it was his journal, and it contained the findings within that played a pivotal role in the formation of his theories. Specifically, it was the Galapagos Islands and South America. That played the most significant role in Darwin's work and the development of his theory of evolution by natural selection. And this is what the Galapagos Islands look like. It's a very beautiful place. The Galapagos Islands are about 1,000 kilometers off the northwest coast of the South American continent. There are 19 islands. There you can see a crater. That's a crater in the water there. 19 islands. And they're very unique due to the variety of geographical features and marine species that are available there for study. These islands, the Galapagos Islands, have been called a living museum and a showcase for evolution. The islands are situated at the confluence of 3 ocean currents. And the islands also experience just constant seismic and volcanic activity. All of these unique processes and the extreme isolation of the Galapagos Islands have allowed for the development of unusual animal life, such as the land iguana, the giant tortoise, and many types of birds. Lots of birds. Now, this is where the story begins for evolution, with the birds. Darwin's finches, right? There's Galapagos finches are what inspired Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection. He visited the Galapagos Islands in 1835, and these are some of his drawings. This voyage was considered to be one of the most important expeditions of the 19th century. As for the Beagle, let's not forget about the Beagle. Let's visit one more time. As for the old venerable Beagle, well, she was eventually decommissioned and broken up for scrap in 1870. But hey, that was a pretty good career, right? She was known for Charles Darwin. Darwin, on the other hand, was just getting started. From this voyage, Darwin wrote his seminal work titled On the Origin of Species, which was published in 1859. In it, he proposed that species evolve over time through a process of natural selection. What that means is organisms that are better adapted to their environment are more likely to survive and reproduce. Nothing too crazy about that, right? That's what you would call microevolution, right? We definitely see adaptation and changes, right? Polar bears with their white fur Is that an adaptation so that they can blend in with the snow or reflect sunlight? You know, you can guess at that if you like. But that's what the theory says. Animals that live in colder environments have thicker fur, perhaps. Perhaps. But that isn't where it stops, right? We've got this idea called macroevolution, or all the way, big, full on, all the way, in other words, the earth and the origin of the earth. Now, evolution by natural selection, or evolutionary naturalism, was a controversial theory right from the start because it challenged religious and scientific beliefs about the origins of life. In fact, Darwin's theory says, here's the truth, right? It made claims about the origins of life. It challenged religious beliefs, scientific beliefs, and challenged beliefs about the origins of life. But here's the truth. Darwin's theory says nothing at all about the origin of life because it cannot. It cannot say anything about the origin of life. The origin of life, that is a metaphysical concept. The best that Darwin's theory can ever give us regarding origins is the inspiration of far too many overzealous, scientific, atheistic materialists is to assert that life has sprung up from non-life. Right? Abiogenesis, that the first life forms woke up. They came to life from inorganic matter, which is the same as saying that life sprang forth from a rock. Worse yet, and I don't blame Darwin for this. I don't think he ever set out to be the prophet of a new religion, but Darwinism has even inspired the most imaginative of religious atheists to make the completely asinine metaphysical claim that the universe created itself. What's even more ridiculous is that the universe is eternal. Both of those claims are ridiculous. Saying that the universe created itself violates the law of non-contradiction. How can a thing create itself if it doesn't exist to create itself? A thing can't be like I'm not going to get into the logic, symbolic logic right now. We'll save that for later. But these are right. If you throw God out the window, well, you haven't saved yourself any trouble. It doesn't matter to them that no one has ever observed anything creating itself or just popping into existence ex nihilo. Nor do they seem to be bothered by the fact that such an assertion violates, as we've already said, the laws of logic that they depend on to do their work, right? When you have scientists who depend on the laws of logic to make good inferences and to do good science and make good observations and come up with hypotheses and write up reports, they use the laws of logic. Well, those same laws of logic that they depend on, they just throw those out the window when they make claims about eternal universes. Do you want to know? Are you asking yourself, why is an eternal universe? Why is that irrational? Because if the universe was eternal, everything would be dead by now. Right? That makes sense? It can't be eternal. Nothing material can be eternal. Everything material is created. Period. Here's the famous explanation. If there was a room, you have a room that's been sealed off forever. It's a thought experiment. It's not possible, but it's just a thought experiment because this is, right? It's no more possible to seal a room off forever than it is to have an eternal universe. But It's a thought experiment. You go into a room that's been sealed forever. You open the door and walk in, and you're the first person to ever see inside this room. And what you find inside that room is a candle burned halfway down and a warm cup of coffee. What does that tell you? That room is not eternal. Somebody put those things there. That is the nature of the universe that we see around us. Somebody put those things there. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. This would all be dead. Perhaps we can gain some insight into the underlying problems of Darwinism if we take a look at his book, specifically the title. Let's take a look at this. How does this help us, right? How does looking at the title of his book help us? Shouldn't you look on the inside and read the pages? Well, yes, we've done that too, but we don't have time to read the book here tonight. Let's just look at the title. We don't have to go much further than that. Published in 1859, Darwin's most famous work, commonly known as On the Origin of Species. However, that's not the title Darwin gave it. You can see it right there. The full title is On the Origin of Species, by means of natural selection or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life. Okay, go ahead, talk amongst yourselves. Anything unusual? Anything of note there? I think that preservation of favored races point there is going to be a little bit of that's going to be a point of contention. So right off the bat, Darwin's theory, Darwinianism, remember from the article? Right, this is the thing that if we don't have it, we can't even understand who we are. It's fundamental to our understanding of the world. Okay. Well, the book presents Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection and provided a wealth of evidence and arguments in support of his revolutionary idea. And the book was hugely influential in the scientific community and beyond. And its impact on our understanding of the natural world and our place in it continues to be felt to this day. And it has certainly been felt. By whom? Preservation of favored races. Okay, well maybe that sounds a little racist. Right? How many people promoting this transgender ideology out there, calling other people racist, and their whole worldview is founded right here. Right here. It's just harmless, right? It's just harmless. It's no big deal. It's just a book, right? Atheists and materialists, they're not hurting anybody, are they? This, my friends, is where our current troubles, technocracy, scientific dictatorship, this is where it originates. What Darwin does, or what Darwinianism does, is it lays the foundation for scientific control of the masses. How? I'll explain that shortly. But suffice it to say that the theory of evolution by natural selection, as it comes on the heels of the Enlightenment, where science and religion were parted in the name of reason, with Hegel's dialectic more popular than ever. So Hegel is in the air. It's a perfect storm of scientific progress and godless humanism. And it was all gathering on the horizon. And this storm was ready to hit in the 20th century. But in short,